chocolate bars were quickly becoming popular in both Europe and North America following their invention in the mid-1800s by Joseph Fry, and they had no signs of slowing down because chocolate is awesome and people tend to like awesome things. When Fry and Cadbury were taking over the United Kingdom and other parts of Europe, the United States was about to see its own wave of chocolatiers rising up as well. The first of these major brands was the very niche company that nobody's heard of called Hershey.
What is this Hershey you speak of?
And by niche, I mean that no one's heard of. Of course, I mean the extremely popular, one of the biggest companies in the world, Hershey.
Oh, that Hershey. Yeah. Okay. Milton S. Hershey of Pennsylvania started his very own company with the introduction of the Hershey bar in 1900. Hershey had actually been involved in confections before, but it didn't really work out for him. Twice he had businesses fail, which is a total bummer. Luckily, the guy had a bit more drive than the rest of us, and he kept on trying.
Yeah, good for him, because I am the exact fucking opposite of that. Like, I get discouraged so easily with everything. Like, I'm the kind of person that if I burn a slice of toast, I'll just, like, rage quit breakfast for the next 3 days. Like, fuck this, fucking breakfast. If I don't immediately succeed at everything I do in life, I get mad at myself and I just give up instantly. Like, seriously, it's a fucking miracle that we've made this podcast and, like, we're still doing it after 4 months and not immediately becoming internet celebrities. Like, hell, I'm thinking of quitting right now as I read this sentence. Don't tempt me, listeners. I will spite my way out of this in the blink of a fucking eye, and I will delete every single file that has to do with Poor Couple's Food Guide, and if you don't share this with everyone, I am serious. What I meant to say was, don't forget to like and subscribe, everyone.
He's not even kidding. Like, this episode almost didn't get made.
But it did. So anyway, as we mentioned, Mr. Hershey gave it another go, and the third time was a charm, because his newest venture into caramels was profitable, and that allowed him to build up a candy company of his own finally in 1886. 1886, he started his own company.
By 1894, Hershey was able to start selling their own brand of cocoa powder, which officially launched the Hershey brand.
Yeah, and then as we said, in 1900, Hershey created the Hershey chocolate bar, which was pitched as an affordable chocolate bar that everyone can enjoy, not just rich people. And that makes a lot of sense now, considering that Hershey bars actually kind of suck. I mean, what? Look, I'm not knocking the guy. He did a lot for chocolate, but like plain-ass Hershey chocolate bars, they kind of taste like you took like a richer, better-tasting chocolate bar, like opened it up, took it out of the wrapper, and just, like, let it sit out in the open in a crawl space for, like, a month or two. I don't like them. Necking aside, though, Milton Hershey actually seems like a really decent guy. He was kind of like the Walt Disney of chocolate. Like, just a few years after launching the Hershey bar, he went on to, like, the next step for every chocolatier, obviously, and built a fucking city. Seriously, again, not joking on that one. Only a decade or so after crafting a successful business, this guy just sits down and goes, man, you know, we created a chocolate bar. I mean, the natural progression from here is to create our own civilization, right?
Hershey, Pennsylvania was founded in 1905 when Mr. Hershey realized that if he wanted happy, effective employees to keep cranking out his turd bar, he'd need to provide them with all the commodities to keep an early 20th century working man satisfied. Affordable homes, public transportation, reputable schools, and of course, a zoo.
I like that when he was building this brand new, like, utopia city, he was like, they gotta have a zoo. These chocolate workers are slaving their asses off 24/7. The least I could do is let them throw popcorn at a couple of zebras on their days off. Side note here, we did some research using Hershey's very own website for this section, and, like, you know that stupid warning about, like, websites using cookies that, like, the stupid European Union, like, foisted onto us a couple years ago? Man, oh man. That has never been worse than it was with Hershey's website, because seeing Hershey.com asking me over and over if I accept all of their cookies, well, that's just cruel. Hershey.com wants to know if you'll accept all their cookies.
Seriously, like, yes, Hershey, I accept all of your cookies. Give me cookies. Can I go get a cookie?
Imagine if what you could do was, if you're on a website that's giving you cookies and you click OK, accept cookies, and then your disk drive just like and a cookie just fucking is in there perfectly baked.
That would be amazing.
That would be amazing, except that joke doesn't work anymore because no computers have fucking CD drives anymore.
We have to wait for everyone to get 3D printers.
There we go. Then we'll see the 3D print cookies, and then like health nuts will find something wrong with that. They're like, that food's not real, it's 3D printed. Going back to Hershey, the city of Hershey quickly became populated by workers and their families, and shortly after this success, Mr. Hershey set out onto his next conquest, building a theme park. Not quite what you'd expect. Would have been cooler to, like, start his own country, but, merry-go-rounds are cool, too, I guess.
Hershey Park was opened in 1906 and remains open to this very day. What started off as a small little circus-style park has grown into one of the most popular theme parks in the world, with roller coasters and water rides and creepy mascots and all sorts of crazy shit.
Do you think if you kill one of the creepy, like, costume monsters and, like, dig into their, like, dead bodies, they're just like chocolate inside? Like,
probably not, because we would probably hear about, like, mascot murders at Hershey's Park all the time if that was the case.
That's true. Like, I don't know. I'm just picturing, like, I know they're very clearly just, like, big, plush, like, bad costumes. Like, just, man, the idea of just, like, a giant, like, peanut butter cup man or, like, a Three Musketeer man, just slice him open. It's like, whoa! And then just kids are just, like, it's, like, hysterical to me. Don't mind us, folks. This incoherent bullshit is just, like, the day-to-day banter that we come up with on a regular basis because, you know, we're basically just two 9-year-olds in adult disguises.
How many of, like, the mascots of, like, candy bars, if those are real, I've never been there, I don't know. But if those exist, how many of them do you think get bitten by children who are just like, oh boy, mommy, a giant chocolate bar.
That's a good question. Like, yeah, have you ever been to Hershey Park?
No, I haven't.
I've been there twice, and I don't remember how many there are, but, like, they're around the park. You see them. You can't go around the park and not see them, so... Man, that would suck, though. Like, I don't know, that's like the start of... That's the start of a friggin' zombie movie that needs to be made now. Speaking of stupid kids, it seems that old Milton Hershey had a soft spot for children as well. I mean, checks out. Liking children is probably a prerequisite for becoming a world-renowned chocolatier. In 1909, he opened up the Milton Hershey School, which is aimed at giving an education to underprivileged youths who would normally be shunned from society. Fuck, does this guy look good now? Maybe I shouldn't have made fun of Hershey bars before. I'm actually starting to feel kind of bad.
Over the rest of his life, Hershey built a cemetery, started a charity organization, and funded a hospital. Man, befittingly, since he was a chocolate god, we just gotta say, this guy Milton Hershey, he was an absolute sweetheart, it seems.
He was. That actually brings us to today's main topic, actually, since we're supposed to be talking about peanut butter cups, Reese's peanut butter cups. So, namely, another stamp in the Milton Hershey is a fucking saint column was his super generous and ridiculously supportive relationship that he had with the inventor of the peanut butter cup, Harry Burnett Reese. So, in other words, Reese's peanut butter cups.
Harry Burnett Reese, aka H.B. Reese, aka Reese, started off similarly to his friend Hershey in that he began his career as a total fuck-up. First, he was managing fishing operations for a canning company. Then he got into the butcher trade, and then he worked in a factory, and at one point was doing work in a paper mill. Normally, any of these jobs might have been good enough for an ordinary person, but inexplicably, Mr. Reese and his wife had 16 children.
Ugh.
16 fucking children. Ugh. His poor wife, like, could she even walk after all that?
Oh, man, that sounds... Ugh. I want so badly to rag on this guy for that, but, like, if he didn't need more money to feed the small village that was his wife and children, he might have never gone into the chocolate trade, and we wouldn't have peanut butter cups now. Like... People are always, like, joking around and, like, people think about how we live in the worst timeline of all, but, like, ho, ho, ho. Do I have news for all of you? Because if you think that we live in the worst timeline, picture everything wrong with 2020 right now, like the COVID pandemic, the United States presidential circus, election, the police brutality and protests and riots. That all sucks. And it's pretty damn bad. But picture all that bullshit in a world... and there's no peanut butter cups.
That would be worse. Way worse.
That could be totally fucking worse, folks. So, if that horn dog, H.B. Reese, had gotten it on with his wife just a few fewer times, had a tiny bit fewer children, he might not have reached out to a specific job ad that would have sent him down the path to permanently improving all of our Christmases, and Halloweens, and Easters, and just in general.
Yeah, life in general. In 1917, H.B. Reese took a job at the Hershey Chocolate Company as a dairy worker. The next year, in 1918, Reese got a promotion when Mr. Hershey asked him to become the manager of one of their dairy farms.
Yeah, unfortunately, this business venture didn't exactly pay off either, since after just 2 years, Hershey closed down all of its dairy farms, and thus Mr. Reese was out of a job once again. It seems like working for a hotshot chocolate tycoon rubbed off on him, though, since Reese then began dabbling with chocolate confections himself. This same year, 1919, Reese started up the R&R Candy Company, where they made absolute fucking trash. Chocolate-covered raisins, chocolate-covered dates. That's what they made. May as well have been making fucking chocolate-covered dog shit, because raisins are basically on the same level as actual fecal matter. Let's be real. Interesting side note here, one of Hershey's relatives actually worked for this first company of Reese's, so it's just another pen in the quill or whatever. That's how interconnected the Hershey's and the Reese's were.
R&R Candy Co. wasn't successful at first, so he restructured and started a new company, referring to it as Superior Chocolate and Confectionery Company.
Well, this second company wasn't very superior, since it also ended up failing as well, because of fucking course it did. If you were just selling chocolate dates and raisins and chocolate nuts and shit, you would have had better success selling just the wrappers of them, because people could have used them for like toilet paper or something in the Depression. Like, let this be a lesson to everyone out there. Don't get involved with raisins. Raisins suck. Raisins are terrible. Fuck raisins.
After this debacle, in 1921, Reese got another job for his old friend Milton Hershey, now working in one of his in the warehouses, since, in case you forgot, this guy had double-digit children to account for. Luckily, Hershey took him back again.
Man, it's hard to tell, like, was Hershey, like, really just that great of a person that he just, like, was really looking out for Reese and just kept helping him out like that? Or, like, were they fucking or something? There's gotta be something else at play there. Like, I don't know. Actually, now that I'm looking in the research at photos of H.B. Reese, and, he's nothing special. Like, not a bad looking dude, but like he just kind of looks like every man you ever see from the early 1900s. But yeah, like, I don't know. I guess, like we said, I guess if you want to be the face of a giant international like chocolate company, like in a giant industry like figure like that, you need to be naturally good on the inside. Like, you gotta be the chocolate, like a good core inside, like a tasty, sweet, caramelly core filled with chocolate pieces and puffed rice and chocolate mousse and oh god, give me a minute.
While you recover, I'll take over. But yeah, Reese kept working for Hershey while still experimenting with chocolates in his spare time at home, which was now located in Hershey, Pennsylvania. And this business never really took off either. He still wasn't successful enough to do anything with it, so he kept on working for Hershey in the warehouse.
So, after a year or so, Reese was then promoted to foreman of the warehouse by Mr. Hershey, and after another few years of that, he felt confident enough to try his hand at starting his own candy company, again.
In 1923, Reese quit his job at Hershey and started the H.B. Reese Candy Company, which still unfortunately included chocolate dates and raisin clusters, but featured a much larger lineup of things that actually resemble things you'd want to eat. Their initial offerings included marshmallows, butterscotch candies, caramels, coconut candies, nougat, peppermint cream, and peanut butter treats, as well as 2 chocolate bars, the Lizzie Bar and the Johnny Bar, named after 2 of his kids.
I'm not sure why the other 14 kids didn't get anything named after them, but like it also must have been sucked to be in the room when he unveiled those bars to his family, like, children, gather round. I've got a brand new treat I want you all to try today. Ooh, yes, Pa, show us. We can't wait to see what sort of chocolate good you've made. This here is the Lizzie Bar. I named it after good old Elizabeth here. Why'd you name it after her, not me? Yeah, or me. Why not? Now, children, settle down. I also made this other chocolate bar named after Johnny as well. But that's it. Johnny and Lizzie are your mother and I's favorites. The rest of you can all go to hell for all I care. Fuck you.
Yeah, definitely no question about who Dad's favorites were. I wonder if those 2 just got like the shit kicked out of them afterwards.
Poor kids. But yeah, I guess third time really is the charm with Mr. Reese as well, because, you know, this one took off. I wonder if they had just like started making peanut butter cups and stuff in the first company, R&R, if like they could have skipped all this bullshit and just been successful the first time.
Yeah, like, so interesting. Imagine that. You start a candy company that doesn't just focus on raising the dates and is actually successful. Crazy.
Whoa.
But most importantly of all, one of the most popular products by the H.B. Reese Candy Company was their new peanut butter cup. That's right, Reese's Peanut Butter Cup.
Yeah. Sadly, there isn't really a whole lot of documentation or like written accounts that we could find surrounding the invention of peanut butter cups. It just basically seems like Reese was just like screwing around for a few years, seeing what types of chocolate goods he could come up with in his basement, and that's about it. Like supposedly he first began working on like a peanut butter chocolate candy because like some local shop contacted him for help. Apparently, some other chocolatier had been making a chocolate-covered peanut butter candy, but they just weren't manufacturing enough of them for the shop to keep up with. So they basically just like asked him, "Hey, you think you could do this too?" And Reese agreed to step in and create his own version of it. And so, bam, Reese's Peanut Butter Cup was created.
It's worth noting that during this whole time span, even though Reese had quit Hershey, he kept using their chocolate in his products as a sort of olive branch, I guess. That or it was just really convenient to use product that was being manufactured in the same town as you. Remember, Reese was operating this new company from his house in Hershey, Pennsylvania, and soon after he began the Reese Chocolate Company. He opened a factory in the same town.
Man, can I say it's actually really inspiring to see like this great business relationship between these two dudes. Like Hershey saw so much promise in Reese despite the fact he just looked like a fucking just disaster loser. And he was just like repeatedly willing to help the guy out. Like even though for some time like Reese was actually a competitor with his own company. But apparently Mr. Hershey just took a liking to Reese. Like he just wanted to reward such a hardworking man for all his efforts. That and like I wouldn't be surprised if he saw a little bit of himself, like his younger self in Reese for being such a fucking loser. Like Hershey shit the bed with a few chalk adventures before he hit it big, and as we saw with Reese, he also failed to hit his stride. Repeatedly. A lot of times, over and over. Quite frankly, dude was kind of a loser. Like, honestly, he might not have even made it anywhere if Mr. Hershey wasn't fighting so hard to help him succeed.
Any famous podcasters out there want to be the Hershey's to our Reese?
Yeah. No one does. No one wants to help us.
We're available if you do.
Yeah, come on. Be a guest. We'll let you say all the swear words, and we'll give you Reese's peanut butter cups, and we'll give you a stipend of.
You can pet Charlie.
Yeah, we'll give you a stipend of Charlie pets. He's calmed down now. He's asleep. But yeah, this relationship, like, it was to the point that during the early years of like the H.B. Reese Candy Company, despite having some success with it, like he still wasn't quite there, and he still was in danger of going out of business due to like some economic hardships. Probably because you have 16 children, it's going to be hard no matter what. But he ended up applying for a credit loan from the Hershey Company, and he was turned down by like their financial advisors. But then Milton Hershey himself stepped in and was like, "No, fuck that," and like he granted him the loan with no questions asked. Like. Honestly, it's kind of sad. Like, Reese would have been homeless like 6 times if Hershey didn't just pick him up over and over and over again. But like I said, like, thank God he did, because that's ultimately what led to Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, like, sticking around and being a thing.
Interestingly, peanut butter cups were sold as part of a big box assortment alongside other products. But the cups specifically became so popular with customers that people were begging Reese to just sell them individually. Reese listened to them, and in 1935, they began selling individually wrapped peanut butter cups, thus officially creating the modern version that we know today.
Or, we should say, a sort of creating the product we know today. Because there's one other interesting little trivia thing we got to go over regarding what makes Reese's Peanut Butter Cups so damn special. During the process of roasting peanuts and making peanut butter for the cups, it was common for Reese's machine he was using to, like, malfunction, which ended up, like, slightly burning the peanut butter. Basically, like, his machine was a piece of crap. He couldn't afford a better one. But interestingly enough, this overcooked version of peanut butter, it turned out to work really well with the chocolate. So when customers got like the slightly burnt version, they preferred it to the smooth, normal peanut butter version.
Ironically, Reese eventually bought a newer, better machine, which ended up ruining the product because everyone was used to the weird, drier, crumblier peanut butter from the old machine. Luckily for all of us, Reese had the foresight to then modify the cooking process and had to actually put in a lot of work to replicate the old machine, basically fucking up their batches of peanut butter.
But yeah, after Reese's Peanut Butter Cups took off, other companies followed suit. They began making their own peanut butter cups, but none of them could capture this same secret texture and flavor that Reese had worked so hard to like actively fuck up to like make it good. Peanut butter cups got more and more popular to the point that even in the 1940s during World War II, the sales of the product were doubling every single year, despite the fact they had like restricted ingredients and like war rations and stuff. Like, Reese knew how good the peanut butter cup was because due to this problem with rations and his supply chain, he just said fuck it. He discontinued all other products and just focused all their efforts on peanut butter cups.
And in return for all the help and support of his friend Milton Hershey, Mr. Reese proudly advertised that peanut butter cups were made with Hershey's chocolate, funneling positive press back to the company.
Peanut butter cups were huge, and they were one of the most popular chocolate treats in the United States for decades. By the 1960s, the annual sales of Reese's peanut butter cups were equivalent to like $243 million. That's incredible. And to sort of wrap things up, finally in 1963, following Mr. Reese's death, unfortunately, it wasn't an early death, but he died. So following that death, the small village of offspring that was his like sons, they agreed to merge the H.B. Reese Chocolate Company with Hershey, which only helped them become even more popular to the point that it's frequently rated as one of, if not the most popular chocolate bar in North America. Obviously, though, the story doesn't end there, so it's time to get modern and see what people have been doing with peanut butter cups in recent history.